So you want to create your own Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Dropbox, or Twitter, or you just want to create a mobile application, but you don't know how to get started. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a roadmap on how to become a Flutter developer in 2023. Okay, first things first, you gotta learn the basics. Starting with number one, we're going to start with, you must learn Dart. So Dart is a programming language that was created by Google for creating mobile applications. The Dart language is the one used in the Flutter framework to create mobile applications. So whilst on Dart, you must first learn the basics of the Dart language. You must learn variables like strings, constants. After that, you must learn about conditional statements and loops. After that, learn about classes. And once you have, before classes, learn about functions. And then learn about the basic functions. And then after the basic functions, learn about the arrow functions, or what they call the fed functions, right? And then after that, learn classes. And then after learning classes, try to learn what they call object-oriented programming. So once you have learned that classes, that will be it. I think it will take around almost like 2 weeks. If it takes more, it's okay. It depends on your learning curve. If you need more time, give yourself more time. After that, learn advanced topic in Dart, such as asynchronous programming. So asynchronous programming is a concept whereby when we are getting data, let's say from the database, there are situations whereby the data gets delayed. So learn how to use what we call futures and then streams. So futures are functions that we use when we want to get data in the future that we are not certain on how long are we going to get the data. So it's more of like we are getting the data from the future. And then about that, learn about streams. So streams is like when you're retrieving data from a database, it comes into a stream of data. It's more of like water. It comes into a stream, a stream of water. So those are streams. So once you have learned that, we'll now move on to the Flutter framework. So on the Flutter framework, the first week of learning Flutter, I want you to learn basic widgets. So basic widgets such as rows, columns, containers, image assets, and so forth. After you have finished that. So after you have finished learning basic widgets, what I then advise you to do is try to learn how to mimic user interfaces from popular applications. For example, try to mimic to create the user interface for Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. So once you've tried that, let's say for a week, mimicking other existing application user interfaces, then move on to what we call state management. So state management, what happens in Flutter is that we have what we call a stateful and stateless widgets. So what happens in Flutter is that we have data that changes, that falls under stateful widgets. For example, when you press a button, let's say if you press a button that retrieves data from a database, that might open another page or something. So that's what we call stateful widgets. So once under they try to learn what is a stateful widget, that's the basics of state management. Try to learn what is a stateful widget and what is a stateless widget. And then after that, try to learn what they call the provider. So the provider is a package, it's a state management package that was created by Google. It's a very simple. Once you have learned the provider, I then advise that you may try to learn other state management packages such as Block or Riverpod. As for me, right now, I only use Riverpod, and I've stuck for Riverpod for, I think it's almost 8 months now. So I would also advise you to do the same thing. Don't move from one state management package to the other. Try to first master state management package such as Block or Riverpod. Once you've mastered that state management package, you can then move on to another state management package. So the next thing that you need to learn is you need to learn Firebase. So Firebase is a backend as a service that was created by Google. It allows developers to create applications very fast, because Firebase allows, it has user authentication. They have Firestore database, they have real-time database, they have Firebase storage. They also have other authentication methods such as using Google, GitHub, and also Facebook. So once you have learned Firebase, the next thing that I would advise you is try to learn how to get data from a RESTful API. So one way of doing that, you can use the newsapi.org. I'll put the link in the description. Or you can also try to use the MovieDB. That will give you an API for movies. And then once you have done that, I would advise that when you are learning Firebase, try to learn Firebase by creating a project. For example, if try to find a project that you are interested in. For example, if you want to create, let's say, an application whereby people who enjoy read books can interact, you can just create that application using Firebase. And then after that, you can then put that application on your GitHub portfolio. So now you have a portfolio. The same goes for RESTful API. If you create a news application or a movie application, after you do that, you can also put it on a portfolio. The other thing that I would also advise is, you see, most people just learn Firebase, like the front end side, but they don't know the back end side. So you see, most companies, or if you are planning to create an application for yourself, chances are going to be you are going to create a backend on your own. And also, if you are going to work for a company, you find that most companies require that you at least know how to create a backend. So for a backend, I would advise that either you go for Node.js, Django, which is good, by the way. It's easier to learn, and then you can also use other such as .NET, but I would advise Node.js and Django. And then after that, what I would advise is try to learn about another database, about databases, SQL databases. For example, Postgres SQL and also MySQL database. So that once you have that, you are now a full stack developer. So now that you're a full stack developer, we are not yet done. Now the thing that we need now is a portfolio. So to create a portfolio, what you need to do is you need to find, let's say, a problem that you must solve. Let's say if it's a social media application, maybe you find that there's something that's missing on Instagram or Facebook. You can then create your own social media application using the skills that you have gained. For example, you can create your own backend using Django or Node.js. You can then use Postgres or MySQL as a database. Or if you want, you can also use Firebase as a backend for your application, and then develop that application. While you are developing that application, I would also advise that you will be building this application and also showcasing it on social media, such as Twitter, LinkedIn. You'll be showcasing there, and then there are more chances that there are other people that will be watching your progress. Or you can even, if you are lucky, you can even get someone who even hire you from seeing the projects that you are doing. So once you have you have learned Flutter. Now you've learned Flutter. You have created a portfolio. The next thing that you need to do is, now it's time for you to get a job. You can get a job by applying at companies there's Turing.com, and you can also use other sites that I'll provide in the description where you can work remotely. Or if you want, you can even create your own company whereby you'll be creating applications for other people. Or you can also work as a freelance. And if you are going to work as a freelance, you can find freelancing jobs on Upwork, freelance.com. So you find that to be a freelance, it's at first it's difficult because you don't have that experience and you don't have that that history that you have created an application for anyone. But don't get discouraged. Just keep applying and keep applying. And then one day you will get your first job. So once you get your first job, your door is open. Once you complete that, someone rates you. Then the next person will come to you because you have already done a project for another person. So that was for me, guys. If you want to learn Flutter in 2023,